Hi everyone, this is Charlie Roschke from Roschke Designs, and today we're going to look at the basics of GrandMA2 on PC. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and go into Backup, which we're already in, and then we're just going to navigate over here, and we're going to go ahead and click New Show. Now we can go ahead and call our show anything we want, so I'll just call it Test_2021. Now, we're going to go ahead and check all, so we're starting from a completely new show file. Great. And so now we're in a completely new show file that we can go ahead and start using. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Setup, then we're going to go to Patch and Fixture Schedule, and we're going to go ahead and patch some fixtures. And that's just basically assigning a certain address or hard number to a virtual number on our channel for us to program with. So let's go ahead and call this first layer Front Dimmers. Now, when I'm selecting my fixture types, I can either search from the library or have these presets. This first one here is just a standard dimmer. We're going to go ahead and select that. Now, let's say I'm going to go ahead and want 20 of them. So I'll go ahead and select 20. Then we have Fixture ID and Channel ID. Fixture ID and Channel ID are just separate ways of assigning organizational numbers to addresses. A great organizational system that a lot of people like to use is using Channel ID for standard dimmers or conventional lighting, and then Fixture ID for intelligent lighting. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do. We're going to leave Fixture ID as 0, so we're not going to worry about that. And then we're going to put Channel ID starting at number 1. And then we get to this patch break, and this is how we actually assign addresses. This first number before the dot is going to tell us what the universe is. So in this case, we're in universe 1. Then these next numbers are going to tell us what address in the universe. So for this example, the first fixture in our sequence of 20 will be in universe 1, address 1. Now the way MA2 does this is the second fixture in our group of 20 is going to go ahead and be in universe 1, but it's going to sequentially go down to address 2. It'll just autofill the addresses for us. So this is good for us, so we don't need to change anything here. So then I'll just go ahead and click Apply. And now that you'll see, we don't have a fixture ID, but we have all our channel IDs, we have the name of the fixture, we have the type, and we have the patch break, as well as a couple of things over here that you don't need to worry about just quite yet. So that's basically the basics of patching. Now we've patched a conventional fixture, so let's go ahead and patch an intelligent one. I'm going to go ahead and click New over here in the Layers column. Then I'm going to click Add Layer down here. Now let's call this next layer, let's just call it Moving Spots. And this time we're going to search from our library. And let's go with some Roby. So I'm going to type in Roby. And then let's go for a mega pointee. And then we have two options here, mode 1 and mode 2. And these are different set by the manufacturer, but if we look, whenever we click on one, down here we'll get an overview of what each parameter does. So we're going to go ahead and go with mode 1. Now I'm going to go ahead and say I want 10 of these, and I want their fixture ID. Let's make them fixture ID, let's make them 21. Then we don't need to worry about channel ID. And then our patch break, we can go ahead and continue. But let's say I had these starting at universe 2, address 100. I would go into patch break and I would type 2.100. So now our fixtures are in the second universe, and the sequence will start at address 100. Then we click Apply, and we see everything has went ahead and patched. Now we're just going to X out of patch. And you're going to get this warning. Don't worry about it. Just go ahead and click Yes. Next up, we're going to want to auto-create some groups. So we're going to go auto-create over here. And then this allows us to basically the console to auto-create a lot of palettes or groups or stuff for us that we normally would have to create by ourselves. It's just a faster way of programming. So we're going to go ahead and choose, instead of choose fixture type, we're going to do choose layer. And then I'm just going to click front dimmers and drag down to moving spot so I get them both. And then I'm going to go ahead and click Create All. And now we've just auto-created 2 groups. And that was pretty easy for us. And then the last thing we're going to do in setup is go to Import, Export. We're going to go to Import. And then this allows us to import a lot of predetermined macros or effects, or matrix or bitmaps or a lot of stuff like that, which is really useful and can really help speed up the process. So instead of building a bunch of effects, we can just import a ton of pre-programmed effects. So all we're going to do is just click Name up here, and that'll select all of them. And then we'll click Import. And there we go. We've now added some groups and some effects. So next up, we're going to work in this. Anywhere where you see this gray area with little dots, this is called a user-defined area. And that means you can basically do anything you want over here. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're just going to click in the top left over here, and then we're going to click Pools and Groups. And you can see those 2 groups we created up here are working, they're all good. So when you click over here, wherever you click in this user-defined area, and then you select what you want to bring into view, it'll auto-populate and auto-fill whatever size of the screen you selected. If you want to change that, this little gradient yellow dot over here can be clicked and dragged, and you can change the size of what you want your groups to be. I'm just going to go ahead and do it here. However, if I want to move this around, I just click the group, and then I can drag this anywhere I want on my screen. So next up, I'm going to want to add a couple other views. I'm going to go over here to Presets and select a couple palette views. I'm going to select some positions. I'm going to select, let's go for some color. And I'm also going to bring up those effects, and that's located in Pools. Awesome. So I feel pretty good about this view. I want to come back to this. Rather than having to make all this again if I leave the view, what I can do is go ahead and click Store, and then click over here. And these are going to be your view buttons. So I'm just going to click this first one, and I'm going to call it Palettes. And there we go. Now, if I were to click in the empty space and then click Clear Screen, I've now lost my view, but if I want to come back to it, I click my view button, Palettes, and I'm right back at that view. And that's a really, really useful thing. So, one other view I want to show you, when I clear our screen, is to go over here to Other. And then we're going to go ahead and click Stage View. Now, Stage View is really useful because it can show you what your fixtures would look like in a 3D space. This is a really great tool to use with MA3D, and that's just a visualizer that you can connect to this. But for now, we're just going to work in this stage view. And so, what I'm going to go ahead and do is select our fixtures. So let's do 1 through 20. And then I'm going to go ahead and click over here to Setup. And then I'm going to click Wizard, Matrix 2D. And let's go ahead and go with, let's say we want 10 columns of them and 2 rows. Then we're going to click Apply and Close. And now that you can see, we've got our dimmers over here. If we wanted to move these, I can use these encoders with these position axes. So axis Y goes from left to right or right to left. Axis X goes from left to right or right to left. Axis Y goes from front to back, and axis Z goes from down to up. So we're going to go ahead and mess with axis Z and just move our fixtures up, and then I'm going to want to move them over some. And so that's a good place for our fixture. Now we're going to hit this clear button. Hitting clear once will clear your selection. Hitting clear twice will clear active values, and then hitting clear 3 times will clear out everything. So next up, I want to go ahead and click 21 through 30. Select those fixtures. Or excuse me, we were using this channel view. If we wanted to select, instead of selecting channels, we would want to click fixture first. If we want to make fixture our default, after clicking fixture, we just hit please. So we'll go ahead and select fixture 21 through 30. And there we go. Now I'm just going to do that same thing as before. I'm going to go to Wizard, Matrix, But instead of having 2 rows, I just want 1 row this time. And I'm going to apply and close. And then I'm going to go ahead and move it. I'm going to move it up, even higher, and then I'm just going to move it over some. And then I'm just going to move it forward a little bit as well. And so that's going to work for positioning so far. So again, we can go ahead and click clear, and we've cleared our selection. Now let's go ahead and store this as another view button, and we'll store this as our stage view. Awesome. So now what we can do is we can go ahead and let's program and store some of these presets that we want to come back to. So let's start with our moving spots. What we're going to go ahead and do is down here we have access to all of our parameters. So we have dimmer, position, go, color, beam, focus, control, all the parameters we can control with the moving spots. So we're going to go ahead and want to do position. Now you notice we have the tilt value, which is our up and down value, and our pan value, which is our side to side value. So first I'm going to turn the fixtures on, and if we head back to stage view, we can actually see that our fixtures are on. We can see the beams of light. Now, if we click out of setup, we can use our encoders here and go ahead and say, I want these tilted back right there. And let's say I want them panned over a little bit right there. And that's the perfect position for me. I'm going to go ahead and store in this first position. And then if I wanted to label it, I would just double click assign, click on it again, and then let's label this as front. Now, in order to create some cooler aerial positions, we can use a fun little trick called align. So if we go back to position, let's reset our pan center, and then let's use align. You can click align over here, or you can use it on your keyboard. If you click align once, you'll get align left to right, twice, right to left. Align 3 times, you'll get out to in, in to out. 4 times will get you out to in, and then 5 times is off. We're going to go ahead and click it 3 times till we get to here, where we go in to out. And then I'm just going to roll my pan value, and if you'll notice, my fixtures will move as a group until I can get a cool little position right there. And then I'm just going to store that position. Let's just call it, we're going to double click sign again, click our fixture, let's call it wide X. And that'll work great for us. Now remember, we click clear once, we've lost our selection. Click it again, and then click it a 3rd time, and we lose the active values on stage. Alright, perfect. So now that we have some positions, let's go ahead and work with some color. We'll grab our moving spots again and then go over here to color. Now, this has a color wheel, which has static colors that we can set. Or, let me go ahead and turn them on, we can go over here to mix color, and mix color either with the encoders or click special dialog and bring up this wonderful special dialog that we can use to select color. So let's say I'm going to want a blue, and I'm going to want, that's the blue I want, that's perfect. I can exit a special dialog, hit store, and then store here in my color palette. Perfect. I'm going to double click assign, and I'm going to label that pale blue. Awesome. So now that we have our color palettes and some of our position palettes, let's go ahead and show you how to bring up some fixtures. So first, you're going to want to select your fixtures. You can either do that by selecting group, like your dimmers, or you can go ahead and actually type the values in. So I'm going to do channel 1 through 20, enter. Now that I've selected my fixtures, I could now assign dimmer values to them. Now let's say I wanted to say fixture 1 through 20 at, I now get to assign a value I want. I can click, let's say at 75, and then please. Please will execute our action, and then you'll notice our dimmers have come up at 75, which is very, very exciting. But let's say I wanted to combine that with some of our palettes. So let's go ahead and select 20 fixture 21 through 30, and then if I double click at, that'll actually bring them to full. At brings things to full. And then fun fact, dot dot will take them out. Let's bring them to full. You can also use at full over here. And then let's select wide X position in pale blue. Perfect. That looks really good. But I think I want to change that pale blue a little bit. So all I'm going to do is go back to color, special dialog. I think I want that blue just a little paler. I'm going to pick Vapor. Now what I can do is I can hit store again, click on the same color palette, and then I can either overwrite the data, which means take all the new data and replace the old data with it. I can merge the data, which means to take some of the old data and some of the new data and merge it together, or I can just straight up remove all the data. So we're going to go ahead and overwrite in this situation because I don't want any of the old data. And now if we look, our beams are a slightly paler blue, which is perfect for us. And then let's say I want to keep this look. I can store it as an executor. I can click store, and then I'm going to store it in executor 1. Now, if I were to clear out everything, and notice by holding down clear, you can get those 3 clears, and I were to go ahead and bring up this executor, you'll notice we'll fade right in, which is very, very exciting. Now, oh no, if you'll notice, our beams, our spots aren't in that blue color. Well, let's go ahead and change that. Let's bring our moving spots into the pale blue color. As you can see, we check it on stage, which is perfect. Then I'm going to click store, and then click our executor. Now I'm going to want to use the merge function. So merge those 2 sets of data. And to double check, I can just hold down clear to clear everything out, and you'll notice the blue stays, which is very, very exciting. Now let's say I'm going to want to grab our moving spots, and I'm going to want to bring them to position front. And then I'm also going to want to take our dimmers, let's bring them at 55. Now I've got this new look. If I were using this executor over here as a queue list, what I could do is hit store again, hit that same executor, and now you'll notice we have this option, create second queue. That means I have multiple queues inside of this executor. Executors are just playback tools. They can either be faders or buttons or anything. They're used to play back something called a sequence, which is like a queue list. You can have as many sequences as you want and as many executors as you want. So now, if I go ahead and were to click this one button again, or actually let's clear out. So we've reverted to our first queue in our sequence. If I then wanted to click go again, we would go to the second queue in our sequence. So that happened a little fast, didn't it? Let's go ahead and change time. To do that, we can just click on the queues, and then you notice we go into this edit executor display. Now I want Q2 to fade from Q1 to Q2. I want that time to be, let's say, 3 seconds. Awesome. Now, if I were to go back, or take that executor off, and I were to hit go, now our first queue happens at 0 time, but from the first queue to the second queue, we have a fade time of 3 seconds. And that's awesome. And then a couple other things. Let's say we make a mistake. Let's say I accidentally brought the moving spots to wide X here. And then I stored it in this executor. But I didn't want to do that. I have a couple options. I can either delete the executor by clicking delete, and then what I want to delete, or I can use this oops button. Oops just undoes an action that you've already created. It's a really handy tool, as you can imagine. So if I click oops, you'll notice it'll ask me to confirm, and I will. That executor I just deleted has come back. I can click oops again, and then get rid of that executor. And then lastly, I want to talk about editing. So if we go back here and we go over here, we can notice that if we select this queue, Q2, and we can edit current queue. And that puts us in edit mode. That means we can change anything we want in this queue. So let's say I really actually wanted our moving spots in Ydex. Now I can just click Update, and that'll update my cue for me. This is a really handy tool when you're editing for your shows and trying to fix stuff in your cues. Now, let's say I accidentally start editing this. Oh no, I didn't want to do that. Instead of having to update and then oops out of it, you can just click Escape, and that'll stop you from editing. Escape can also take you out of some displays. And so finally, what I want to teach you how to do is save your show. You're going to click back up over here, and then you're just going to click either Save Show or Save Show As. I'm going to go ahead and Save Show, because I've already named this show, and now all my data is stored. Another quick way to save your show is to click back up twice. And hopefully this gives you an idea of how to use GrandMA2, and I hope it succeeds well on your next show. Thank you so much.